Okay, guys. I apologise. I thought I was actually streaming live. So for the last hour, I've actually been streaming this live, and I haven't shown you what I've been doing. I thought I was actually streaming. I wasn't. So I'm going to go through, try and explain what I've done, and try and record the session yet again. And hopefully try and do this very, very quickly. So I'm just going to recap. In fact, let me just undo all of this, because I've done quite a lot of things here, and as I said, I thought I was actually live and I wasn't. I do apologise, guys. I forgot to actually press the go live button. I was streamed up, set ready to go, and I hadn't clicked the go live. So I do apologise. I'm a little bit late, and yeah, I've got to try and reset my mind, because I've literally done an entire hour session, and you've missed literally everything I've just done. So I've literally got to try and explain everything all over again. So I'm going to try and do this in as best as I can, and just quickly recap. Where are we? So in today's session, or in the first two sessions, I literally did this. I started to use MIDI and audio, and we built a loop with an 808 drum kit. We created our first MIDI loop. We explained quantize, and we added a kick drum snare. We added some hi-hats, velocity control. I explained the quantize and how to control that. I did add in a groove to your MIDI drums, adding extracting a groove from an audio loop, creating a 2 and 4 bar loop, and then mixing it all together. And then in part 2, we did individual effects and adding space to the drum samples with panning, etc. Adding EQ, compression to drum parts, adding saturation to your distortion on your drums, bit crush your hats for chunky sound using a randomizer effect, and adding a subgroup. Now in part 3, we're going to just do some drum tuning quickly. I'm actually going to make this a lot quicker than the first session, because I've just done the first session, as I say. So I can know how I can shorten it. So that was almost like a rehearsal session. I've just literally done it in the last hour. I will remember to click go live one of these days, because what I did this time is I actually scheduled this at about 10 o'clock this morning, and I forgot that I wasn't clicking go live straight away. I thought it would automatically go live as soon as I clicked on the live stream here. I thought it would automatically send the live stream to here, and obviously I didn't do this here. So I do apologise about that, and sorry for being late. So what I'm going to do, and I just want to move this down so I can literally see what's going on there. So what I've done, first of all, just to cut a few things down, I've just added these little sections here, and right clicking. I've changed the BPMs. And I've done this for a reason, because we done some live stuff. I want to get onto that very, very soon. What I've also done is I've gone through the drums, and each individual drum I've put a pitch tuner on, and you get that from going into Spectrum on audio effects on the left hand side here, and you go to pitch and you drop that on there. And what you can then do is you can pitch your drums. And what I found out is that my key of my track is in F sharp, but you don't have to stay to F sharp. You can actually start tuning your drums anywhere within the key and the mode, as long as it sounds right and it's in key. It's a mixture of using your ears and using your sort of scientific drum or delay calculations in milliseconds as well. So we'll come on to that a little bit later, and there's a little calculation I'm going to show you that I did to adjust a few things. I'm going to reset my track delays that I've done as well, because it won't make sense. So I'm just going to reset this delay here. And some of the drums have been tuned as well, and so they're going to sound slightly different. But just to save time, what I've done, as I said, I've gone across each drum, and I've played them, and I've just pitched them within maybe 5 semitones, 3 semitones. So for example, if it was in C sharp, I've moved it to F sharp. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones, and that can put it into key. And then what I tend to do is I move 2 semitone increments up and down just to play around with the sample, see how it sounds. It might sound unnatural if you're using audio. If you're using samples inside the drum here, you can make it more. You can move it around individually. You can sort of play with the samples, tuning a little bit better. Again, you can change the sample sounds if you want to, and try tuning different sample sounds. So I'm just trying to sort of shorten what I've done in the last session, because I tried to fit that into 45 minutes and it actually went over to 1 hour and 10 minutes. So hopefully I can fit this into about 45 minutes now. So I've gone through each drum that's playing in our loop, and I've tuned all of those, as I say, by 5 semitones, 2 semitones. So it was a case of going into each one, going into the pitch, and then this is what I do. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for, around here, I'm just looking for fundamentals. So it's E, got an A, got an F, and I'm just looking to pitch them around. And if you look in my controls, you see I've moved that one 4 semitones. Okay, so what I've done there, as I say, I've gone through and pitched them all. I've got 2 different variations here. And I'm just going to show you the variations very quickly. What I've done saves me actually having to go over them again. So I've created a variation there, and I've taken out the cowbell and the conga mid there, and I've changed the pattern here. And for this variation, you can see I've stripped that right back there as well. And I've done that for a reason, and I've changed BPMs for a reason. So I want my track to start out at 120. I might be mixing from another track, and I use elements to mix in and out different BPMs. So we end up on 124. So when I come to play those a little bit later, it will sound at slightly different tempos. So just be mindful. So if you want to hear how the original drum sounds, go back to part 1 and part 2 and listen to that. And then you will hear the difference in pitching. But I will do a couple just to show you. Okay guys, so what I want to show you now is making your drum loops a little bit more natural. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. For example, if I wanted to move these claps, I could select all of those. I could go into my quantize, I could turn my quantize off or onto narrowest, and I could just slightly move those across to there and snap all of those. And then what I'd have to do, I'd have to come across to my claps. I'd have to make sure that the sample, and I'm just going to zoom on the sample there, make sure it's crossing, because what I could do is I could also change the start point of the sample as well. So that's a couple of different things that you should play around with. That's one way of doing patterns, but don't forget that if I've done that in that pattern, you've got to go into this pattern and do the same, and this pattern and do exactly the same. So you'd have to go into each one of these, highlight, move them naturally into narrowest, and again, the start point of your sample will control, and you just can move that around and try a different sort of crossing 0 point. And that can also delay your samples and make them sound a little bit more snappy, a little bit more bite to them if they're not quite sitting right. You might want to sort of what's known as flamming the drums or flamming the claps and the snares. You flam them off. So you do that by adding a little bit of movement into them. But there's also a scientific way of doing it as well, and you can do it with the old track delays. We used to use this for in the old days when we had difficulty with note polyphony. That's a quite a one to say, a mouthful, isn't it? So basically, in the old days when we had Cubase version 2 and running MIDI gear and lots of other outboard gear like the Roland JV1080, sometimes our drums, what we'd have to do, we'd have to use ghost parts because we only had 1 meg of memory, and we also had minimum like 32 and 64 and maximum 128 note polyphony. So we'd slightly delay our parts, delay drum parts with the track delays. So you get to that by switching on your track delay here. Now you can move this in slightly in real time, and this one will move the entire drum pattern, and I'm going to show you this in a scientific way of how I've moved it forward an 8th or a 16th, the whole pattern, and slightly delayed it off. And obviously I can do it on the other drums. I've done it as well. I did it slightly on the ride. I put a 5-second milli delay there. You can see that there, just 5 seconds, 5 milliseconds delay. And sometimes just use your ears, because when you do this real time, the audio will sort of buffer. It won't sound natural. So there is a scientific way of adjusting this. And it's an old calculation. Don't ask me where I got the 240 from, but it's 240,000. I can't remember. It's been 20 years ago since I did this. And you divide that by, and I've got it here on a little post-it note. So it's 240,000 divided by your 8th or your 16th or your 4th note. So for this example, we could do an 8th note. Sorry, 240,000 divided by an 8th, and then you divide that by your BPM, and it's this case is 120 or 123 is the main BPM. So anywhere between 120 123, so we can do 120, and that equals 250 milliseconds. So if I do it again, 240,000, divide that by an 8th, and we do 240,000 divided by 8 divided by 1, 2, 3. You can see it's not right. Come on, divided by 8 divided by 123. There we go. So it's 243 milliseconds. And again, if I go 240,000 divided by 16th, divide that by 123, you can see that's 121 milliseconds. So that's how you can work out a natural delay time for using in your track delays, but also using for delay times on delays, for example. So here we could go and take the sync off, and also take the sync off altogether. Now we can obviously have individual delay times here, or we could just sync them together. So we could have 121, and you could move them in real time then, as long as you know, or you could just sort of double click them in. 1 2 1, or 2 4 3, and that will just automatically adjust everything. So I'm just going to undo those, and then just going to put them back into sync. So obviously you could have just one in a sync mode like that, and one with a natural movement delay. But I haven't really covered this kind of stuff, so we'll go into the more individual tutorials when I do actual physical recorded tutorials and post those, rather than actually doing live tutorials on all of these. But I just wanted to show you these and why I like to sort of do this and have natural delays, and you'll see with the pattern in a second. I'm just going to delay it by 122, so it's roughly rounded up to about 122 milliseconds. Now there's another thing you could do with your hats, for example. You could just duplicate this, and just to also mention, I have panned my drums around on this pattern as well. I've moved my drums around and I've panned some of the elements a little bit more to the right and to the left. Just imagine a drum kit in front of me. But if you wanted to create a quick has effect, you could do this. You could move this by about 15 milliseconds. Okay guys, so that's just one, a couple of different ways you can sort of try things, panning, making your drums sound a little bit more natural. So using these little track delays, have a play around with them. They're handy. Again, it's one quick way of, especially if you've created a drum part like this and you don't want to go in and start moving all of the individual claps around. So obviously I'd have to come in now and do all of these and make sure that all my claps are moved across. Just going to go on narrowest again. And again, you can just move some of your elements around more organically. These are programmed on 8ths and 16ths, probably on 8ths and some on 16ths. Yeah, mostly on 16ths. And there's been some groove added to them as well. Don't forget, we made a little bit more groove. So this is what it's doing. It's another way of making it more natural and organic. So that's two ways. You've got your groove controller over here on the left-hand side, don't forget. So we've got an MCP, or we've got a extracted hi-hat groove that we took from drum loop. One of the loops up here, I think there's that hat loop. We just right-click and we extract the groove, if you remember. So that's a couple of different ways, and what I'm going to get onto is just adding a delay. Now this mixer, unfortunately, in Ableton Live 10 it seems to be mapping to its own map, whereas in Ableton Live 9 it was kind of a blank template, and I got a blank canvas, so I could assign everything. So some of these parameters on here override these volume controllers here. So what I've had to do is I've had to put little macros in to control the volumes. So there's some little macros here, and my maximum volume has been set to 6 decibels on here, so that if I do accidentally knock these faders on here, I can actually then put everything right and just reset them very, very quickly. And they're handy for almost like live mixing, and that's how I like to sort of do my tracks. I like to sort of imagine bringing things in and out on a mixer, muting drum parts in and out. And that's how you used to sort of ride the what's called as riding the faders as such in the old days. And that's why I try and introduce my tracks live by creating different scenes with slightly different drum variations, and you'll see why in a second. I'm going to start recording a track idea from this, just literally looping stuff in and out. But firstly, I just wanted to, I'll just move that off. I wanted to just show you adding the delay and the feedback to the clap and the snare, and then why I want that. And then obviously I've gone over creating the clip variations. I've shown the different variations of those clips, and using those clips variations to develop a live track idea. So what I would do is, in a live sense, I might be mixing from one track to another track, and the BPM might change. So what I do is I literally write the BPMs here of what the track sections are, or the scene sections. And I've slightly made different variations, one with the bass, one without the bass, one without the bass and a stab, and I took the hats out here as well. Excuse me. And because I can't control these individual drums, I've got to make a different way of doing them. So what I like to do is I like to put a little bit of delay effect on there, just from the send up here, naturally. Now if I was to close this down and open it, it still does the same thing, but if I do that, it's still exactly the same. But some of these map slightly differently, so I can get a little bit confused unless I know exactly what's for what. But what I tend to do is I have a nice strip on here. I can just write on it with a marker and then wipe it off when I want to. And I just map everything when I'm doing a live situation, or I know where my controllers are. I sort of suss things out first and map all my controllers. We'll do all of this in tomorrow's session. Tomorrow's session I'm actually going to be covering more of live looping. I've created a new track idea and I want to develop that into a track, but also I want to develop that into a live sense where I could introduce another track into it. So what I like to have is a live setup as such, where I can record everything pretty much on the fly, and then record the sections, capture it all, and then go back in and make an arrangement, and I can release a track from that arrangement. And it's just one really, really quick way of doing things. So without further ado, I'm going to go quiet for a while and just literally get into it and start adding the delay, showing the delay on here and why I've added that, and the feedback controls. And then what I could do is add more feedback control on that, but I will do that in tomorrow's session. Assigning all the different controllers. This is just purely recapping a few things from the first session and the second session, because I forgot to actually show you the drum tuning samples in that session, and just making them a little bit more natural. So I just wanted to give you a third session just to sort of back up the first two sessions, really. So we're not going to spend much more time on this, probably another 10-15 minutes tops, and that's pretty much it. and then I'll be back tomorrow with that session, and so stay tuned for more. So I'm going to go into the mix and just mess around with it now, playing with the delays, recording some stuff in, show you what I would do first, and then I'll go in and record that. So this was how I put an idea together. If you've got some stems or a remix, or you want to do a quick radio edit, this is how you do it. And apologies if your volume's not coming out left and on the right side. I literally knocked my mixer over here. So everything should be stereo balanced again now. Fingers crossed. Okay, so what I've done there, just got my delay over my whole drum loop, and it helps me to sort of transition from one section to another. So I'm literally going to bring this down now. I'm going to show you, and then let's just make sure that you can see things down here. And you can't quite see my live clip session here, but I've got another little mixer. It's got almost exactly the same stuff on it there. And as you can see, when I change the scenes, what will happen is different scenes will load in and out. Let's just quickly have a look at that there. So you'll see the rack patterns change. So what this is doing, these sections here, these little red and yellow sort of blocks, they're actually fitting round the different sections, and I can move these by sort of shifting them and using one of the arrow keys, and I can move those sections around and go the opposite way, and I can move that scene around, so I could have just control over the stabs there. I'm going to put that down, and we'll sort of cover this in more detail tomorrow. But I'm just literally going to start recording a quick idea into arrangement view. I mean, I was a traditional producer. I always used to work in arrangement view. But in 2016, I went to see Todd Terry and DJ Pierre at the Amsterdam ADE. You can see the 2016 card. So yeah, I went to see those guys, and I got talking to DJ Pierre afterwards. And during the session, DJ Pierre mentioned about turning your computer and making it into a live sort of live sequencer and into a live instrument. So rather than just sitting there and working in traditional arrangement view, I decided to buy these controller pads and the mixers and stuff and try and turn my setup from traditional arrangement view into a live set, something I could control and do things on the fly. Because I was a DJ, I wanted that kind of control, and this was kind of perfect for me. I mean, obviously I'd like the Ableton Push, that is next on the list, but for the now this is just a good job. And I've got little keyboard controllers, and I can do stuff here, and I've got my then mixing map and my my fader controls here, just like having on a DJ control. So it's very important for me. And then what I do is I change these BPMs just by literally renaming the sections. Intro 120 BPM, and then I can go from different scenes and change the BPMs. I mean, I could, for example, in this one here, we could have a different scene. I could duplicate that scene again. I could rename that. And I'd just keep that exactly the same. I wouldn't change the BPM because that will stay at the BPM that it's on currently from the clip before. So if I want to stay there and I got another section, I might want to do this here. I might just want to take out, for example, the stab. I might want to take out the ride. And I might want to take out the clap. And I've still got my variations. So what I'm doing is I'm just creating myself some different scenes, but again, we'll go more into detail on this tomorrow's session. I just want to show you how you can take your different drum pattern variations as an intro and an outro. So I'm going to record this in live now, and that pretty much sort of ends today's session, guys. It was just a quick one really to try and tidy up a few things I missed out on the first session, and just wanted to cover that drum tuning. So it is quite fiddly. I don't want to drag you through every individual section of that, which is what I did in the sort of the pre-rehearsal. That should have been available at 1:30. I've got to get used to it because I've actually started scheduling now, and instead of just pressing live, going live, I'm actually starting to schedule things so I can pre-promote them. And rather than doing the promotion literally as I've just gone live, I'm just trying to reschedule stuff now. So yeah, that was me not being used to having to click another button yet again just to actually go live. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to literally go into arrangement view. I'm just going to tidy up a little bit here. So I've got all of this. I'm making sure I've got control on the stabs. I've got control on this pattern here. Should I want to do this and close this down, I've still got my stabs here I can control just on the one block. I've still got control over that there, but the idea is I want control over my drums because I want to mute most of my drums in and out. I'm not concerned about these sections and the basses at the moment. I can control those if I want to by just obviously deleting them from the clip scenes, but let's go into it. Now, there's just a couple of things I wanted to show you there. Obviously, because I've moved my track delays here, because I've changed BPMs, they sound slightly different and out. So what I've done, obviously, if I was working in a live sense, I probably wouldn't mess with my delays here. I'd only use those if I was making a drum loop in a track, and I was going to literally use it in this arrangement view and not in a live scene view. So I've come away from those delays there. I'm going to come away from that delay there. I just wanted to show you those functions and those options that you can use. So obviously when I'm changing BPMs here, things are going to sound slightly different because they were out of sync here. So that's why I've sort of started live again. And what I'm going to do again is I'm just going to start recording. And before I did that, I've just put my timing onto 1 bar because it was on none, which I noticed. So every time my trigger is seen, it just comes in, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to sort of time itself on a 1 bar loop. Okay guys, so I'm just going to go back into the mix again, into arrangement view. It's just going to undo all of that. I just need to undo those delays again. Yeah, okay, so just going to reset, and I'm going to go into a live mix. And there we go, guys. So pretty much now I have a track arrangement that I can go back in and tweak. Obviously I come a little bit late in with that there, so I could maybe just bring that back. I can start bringing my elements back in where I wanted them, and just get the timings on the right bars if I wanted to do so. But you can see how quickly you can just throw an idea together, and that's the whole point of what I was trying to do with this here. So in tomorrow's session we'll do a little bit more of this and focus more on the effects and how I set it up for a live scenario, how I control things and try to transition, how I use like white noises and other effects. This is pretty much all I've got on here is raw drums and delays and reverbs going on. So there's nothing else really been added into it. I could have added some white noises and triggers and other things, but I just wanted to keep it very, very simple, and so you could see what was going on. How you doing, Gav? Yes, I'm good. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed that little bit of a live session. As I say, I went ahead at 1:30. I actually did go ahead at 1:30, and I was live, and I forgot to hit the go live button. So I do apologise about that. If anybody was waiting for 1:30 for me to come on, I will try and actually remember to do that tomorrow at the next time schedule. I don't know what time I'm scheduled for tomorrow. I haven't yet to work that out because I've got something I need to do in the morning. I'm waiting for a phone call from a certain time, and I don't know what time they're actually going to phone me, so it's one of those. Anyway, so hopefully, guys, I will be back tomorrow at some point. If not, maybe over the weekend. I don't tend to do weekend sessions. I like to try and keep them in the week. If you guys have got any questions, please leave them in the comment section, and also like and subscribe. Yes or no, thumbs up or thumbs down, it's up to you. If you want any content, or if you want to be taught by any of us, please also head over to the one-to-one tuition page that I would show you if I can, but I'm not going to show you that today. The link are in the description. Not all of the website is open at the moment. We're just in the middle of migrating to a new server, a bigger server, unlimited hosting, so that we can handle the traffic and we can handle a few other things as well. The current server is not actually good enough for what I need it for, so I'm having to actually move onto a new server, and that's going to be happening tomorrow. So, and over the next few days really. So we're just going to be testing on a new server for a month and see if we can get to grips with a few problems we're having with the current one, because the current server is actually just sort of clipping the CPU out and causing the site to crash, and the resources are just not not enough resources for our actual website. So unfortunately we can't launch the website just yet, as quick as I would have liked, but unfortunately that's what it is. But there is the one-to-one page you can go over to, and information is there on booking a session with us. You can go ahead and book it, because it is pretty much working. It's just that I don't want to flood too much traffic there just yet and crash the site again, because literally the site's been down since Monday and I've only got it back last night, so I don't want to sort of drive too much traffic just there just yet. But yeah, that's it, guys. You have obviously, just quickly going over this, you've got an arrangement. You can see you can go back in and you can sort of start moving around. I did actually accidentally knock a clip here by the wrong clip, but that's easy rectifiable. I can just drag things back over the top of it. You know, it's no problem. And that's the beauty of working in the live view and the clip view and the arrangement view. So it's just remembering where everything is, remembering where all of the parts are on your different clips, sections, and that's why I try and sort of build a track with as minimal as, no more than 4 or 5 sections, enough to keep within this block here, and then I can do everything within that, and that's all maps down here visually for me, and just throw it in and out. But we'll cover more of this in tomorrow's session. Stay well, stay warm. It is damn cold in the UK at the moment. It was the coldest night on record for 25 years last night up in Scotland. So do wrap up and enjoy your evening, guys. Take care, and I'll see you all tomorrow.